Hey everybody, what is up? Fourth Seraph here, and today we are going to be talking about the 5 worst people for competitive Overwatch and why they are bad. Now, some of you may be thinking as I go through this list, but wait, that character is really good. I get killed by them all the time, and that might be true. In fact, some of these characters can be useful at lower levels because people aren't as good, but just about every character in here is pretty easy to counter right now, the way the meta is, and I know that there's a bunch of buffs and nerfs and things coming out, but I think this list will stay pretty much the same. And so if you want to get up into the higher levels, 60 and above, in ranked Overwatch, you have to stop playing these characters, except maybe number 5, he can be used sometime. But let's get straight into the list. The first one on here is going to be Winston. And the reason that Winston is on this list is not because he is bad necessarily, but because every other tank is so good right now. D.Va is incredibly useful, Roadhog, Zarya, Reinhardt, and there's really just not a lot of reason to ever use a Winston, and especially as a solo tank, Winston really just can't do it. He can't take that much damage. His shield is very easy to break, and he just really can't fulfill the tank role by himself, and there are just such good pairs with all of the other tanks that unless you're in a really specific circumstance, there's not a lot of reason to use Winston because you could do much better with another character. So he's just a little useless right now. His ult did get a little bit better in the recent buff, but still, most of the time, unless the point or something is right by the edge of the map, it's still not super useful. You might get 1 or at most 2 kills with it, which is not very good. And the next one, number 4, is going to be Widowmaker. Now, I play on console, so this might not be quite as true on PC. Maybe she would be replaced by Anna or someone else, but Widowmaker, it's pretty hard to hit her headshots on console, as well as her nerf so that she can't really quickscope anymore. There's just not a lot of reason to use her, especially since her ult requires a very high level team to be used effectively. Most people will not take huge advantage of her ult, and it mainly just helps her. But compared to someone like Hanzo, who can deal out a lot of damage and get a good clearing ult that can just absolutely wipe the other team if used correctly, it just makes Widowmaker pretty ineffective because ults really win games in Overwatch. How you use them can just completely turn the tide of a match. And so having Widowmakers usually isn't going to do that. It's not going to change the tide. And so although she might have a slightly higher potential to kill one-on-one than a sniper like Hanzo, overall you don't want to be in those one-on-one situations. And so if you're going to use any sniper, use Hanzo, especially since he will be getting buffed here again and his headshots will be quite a bit easier to hit. But that gets us into number 3, and that is going to be Symmetra. Now, I know what you're thinking, but Symmetra has the highest win rate of any character. And that's true, but that's mainly because people don't play her. She is the least played character, probably, and she really just doesn't have a role that she fills, because she is a support that doesn't heal. If she had any type of healing ability, any type, then she would be a very good character, but because she can't, just providing that shield isn't really helpful at all, and it's hard to do a lot of damage as her. She can do quite a bit, like her gun, but her left trigger or alternate fire just is incredibly hard to aim with. You can kind of just spam with it a little bit and hope to hit something, but most of the time it's not going to be that useful. And one-on-one, she's going to lose most fights. She's just useful if you can get up behind a tank or something. If you can get behind Reinhardt, you can deal out a lot of damage. And her teleporter can be useful, but any good team, good Tracer, Reaper, Genji, anyone with any mobility, D.Va even, will go back and destroy that right away. So it's only useful against players that aren't really that good. And could also be replaced by any healer or a DPS character because she doesn't heal, but she also doesn't do a ton of DPS, and so she just really doesn't fill a role, and that is what makes her kind of useful. The next character we're going to talk about, number 2, is Mei. Now, as you guys probably know if you've been around the channel for a while, I don't like Mei, and I hate people playing as Mei, and that is because Mei can do as much harm to her team as she does good. Her wall ability is actually probably the worst ability in the game because you can end up just killing a member of your team with it. And I had this experience recently. I was playing on Temple of Anubis, second point, that gate right there. I'm Reaper, and I jump down. There's about 3 people of their team, and I ult on them. And one of them was a tank, so they don't quite die, and I've taken quite a bit of damage, so I'm going to go into Wraith mode and back up and grab some health so that I don't get killed. And what happens? Mei puts a wall up, because unless you have a really high level of communication, Mei is going to probably do a lot of damage. The only thing that can be somewhat beneficial is she can sometimes block off an enemy Bastion, but Bastion is such an easy character to counter with other means that it's really not going to do any good unless you have a really, really competent Mei. She's just not going to be that helpful, or if you have one that's good and can just go and stall a point, that can be kind of helpful occasionally, but once again, that isn't killing anyone, and if she goes and stalls a point, it's very likely that the whole enemy team is there, and as soon as she gets out, she's going to be killed. And so unless you just need to like hold off for your whole team to get back, she's really not going to be useful, because you need to actually kill the enemy team and get them off a point, and not just stall it. So she really, once again, is a character that doesn't fill a role. She doesn't do a ton of damage. She can't really necessarily stall longer than Diva or Lucio could do, and so she just doesn't really have a role to play. The next character, the number 1 spot, if you have been watching my streams recently, you're going to know who this is. The number 1 spot goes to Torbjorn. Now, especially on console, where he just got nerfed, Torbjorn is a useless character. At any high level play, everyone can easily kill a Torbjorn turret. It will do nothing. You won't get it built. He is a very bad character. He's easy to kill. His weapon is somewhat hard to use, and his turret right now is pretty useless. You might be thinking to yourself, though, at this point, Torbjorn is so good. I go into a game and I'll get like 60 elims with him. I'll have the most damage. And the reason that Torbjorn gets so many elims is because his turret will auto-adjust to people, and it may hit them once or twice and do essentially a negligible amount of damage, but you'll still be included in the elim. You will still get that even though you didn't eliminate anyone. You did a very, very minute amount of damage and really didn't help at all. But you get the kill, and so you think you're doing well, but really it's not helping. Or it can just sit and shoot at a Reinhardt shield and probably get like thousands of damage just from that. But it's not effective damage, because not only are you building Reinhardt's charged with that, but you're also now using a character that is really ineffective because your turret isn't doing anything. And so unless you have a Bastion or something too, so you're really trying to take down Reinhardt's shield quickly, for some like weird specific instance that I can't even think of right now, it's not doing anything. And that's the thing, is you have zero control of what your turret shoots. Torbjorn is really a character for terrible players. Even I've seen some good people use him, and always they'll go from using a character, and I'm like, wow, this is amazing. I've even seen Seagull play once as Torbjorn, and it was a video where he played, I think, as Hanzo or someone earlier, and did so good as Hanzo and tried to play Torbjorn, and it just was really bad. It went really poorly, and he didn't do very well because of it, and his team ended up losing because he chose a character like Torbjorn, and that was even before it was nerfed. So he right now is an absolutely useless character. People only think he's good because they're not good enough to play with another character. I hope you guys don't get offended by that if you love to play Torbjorn, but you should know, people play Torbjorn because they're not good at Overwatch. Go practice with another character. Learn to get good with someone who's going to help your team a lot, because Torbjorn really isn't. He's easy to counter, like so easy. Any character can kill him. A Reaper will be able to just get a lot of ult charge if there's an enemy Torbjorn, so you definitely do not want to play him if they have a good Reaper on their team, and do not play, except in very specific circumstances, really any of the characters on these lists in competitive. There's so many good characters right now in the meta, and so do some research into that. Learn what characters are good and practice with them. For a while, I was playing a ton of Soldier 76 and Hanzo, and I really loved playing those characters, but in the meta, there were just better characters to play, so I switched to playing a lot of Reaper and McCree for the end of the season, and it ended up being way better for me, and I was able to go back up a lot, and it was really useful. So learn the meta, play the meta, get good with every character so you don't have to play just a Torbjorn or just a Symmetra, so that your turrets or sentries or something can do all of the work, and you guys will be able to get super high in competitive Overwatch. Anyways, guys, if you like this video, make sure to leave a thumbs up. Check out the G Fuel giveaway that I have going on right now, and until next time, I will see you online.